or maybe one of my kids did something, but I was always a stickler where I put my stuff, tools or whatever, okay? And there's times where the stuff would not be where I put it. I'm positive I put it in that cabinet or, wherever, and it wouldn't be there. And then my kids would say, I didn't touch it. And then, a couple months go by and I find it like in my bedroom in some weird, place where it just doesn't make sense how it ever got there. It's nothing I would have ever even thought of putting it in there.
Right. You know that you just reminded me of something that happened to me going on 4 years this January. It was January 20th of 2016. And what had happened before that, 4 months prior, I had this little pill bottle with some cold medicine in it. And I had it in a locked bookcase had oak case with a glass front. And it disappeared. And I was like, how could that disappear? I'm the only one with the key. It's just gone, Didn't think nothing of it. Now, I had this girlfriend at the time, and she had some attachments, to say the least. So anyway, she came to the house wanting help. I said, okay, ex-girlfriend. At the time, I said, well, yeah. I said, okay, let me help you. And she definitely had, her eyes were going, all black. It was some spooky stuff. So anyway, she looks up at that bookcase and said, what's that? And we both looked. That bottle appeared in front of both of us. If I had just seen it, I still don't believe it to this day. That bottle's still sitting there. I look at it every day for going on almost 4 years, trying to debunk. Did we both just see that bottle appear? That was the freakiest thing I ever did. I call it a parlor trick of pure evil that was trying to distract me. And I got to tell you something, it worked. Because when you see something like that appear, there's no words. You can't, it just stops you in your tracks, literally.
So it was not there, and all of a sudden you and your ex-girlfriend or girlfriend, it appeared right in front of you? Did it slowly appear, or there it was?
It just, kind of just phased in, boom, there it was. It was the freakiest thing I've ever witnessed. It was missing for 4 months, just gone. And it just gone, and whatever was attached to her was so evil that it was going to do whatever it could to distract me from helping her dislodge this attachment. And it worked, because that distracted me and it freaked her out so bad she left. So I didn't even get to help her, and I was sitting there to tell you, I remember the whole next year every day I would try to debunk that, and there was just no debunking it. It's was we both hallucinating this? No, it was just a parlor trick from evil to distract me, so I didn't dislodge it, and it worked because it freaked her out, and she left. I don't blame her.
And she never came back?
No, nope.
Well, maybe that was the best for you. You know that.
Oh yeah, believe me, because whatever was attached to her was it was all bad. Be able to do that, I've never witnessed anything like that. I've heard about stuff like that, but until you witness it with your own eyes, it sends the chills up my back just thinking about it right now.
Now, I think of the scary things of my first marriage. I married somebody I didn't know. I really didn't. I dated her for 2.5 weeks and we got married. Big mistake. People don't ever do that. But I remember, moving somewhere, getting an apartment and coming home from work. And this is when I was working 2 jobs. I was working at a local radio station and I was working in a cement company. So I was putting in 16 hours a day. I was really tired and sore. And I remember coming home to the apartment, and here's these group of people, with a Ouija board, dressed in, you mentioned that one, yeah, and that's creepy.
Yeah,
and we actually had a linoleum floor because that's how old the apartment building was where we were living in, and they had some type of symbol thing, with yellow chalk. I remember that to this day. Some type of symbol, drawn. And they had a candle going and all this weird stuff. And it really freaked me out because I didn't know my wife was a witch. I thought she was the other word, but I didn't, I didn't know she was into that Satanism and witchcraft and whatever she was in. She was in a cult also. It struck me as like I got rid of that Ouija board. And I didn't get rid of it like I should have. I should have probably burned it. I should have whatever. No, I kind of grew up, like, hey, we think of other people. And, I didn't really know what Ouija boards actually, I didn't know they were evil. Okay, I really didn't at that time. But I knew I didn't want it in my house because I didn't want those people there. So I donated it to a thrift store. And then, like the next night, I come home, and all these people in their hoods looked at me. And I remember Julie saying, "Don't ever do that again." And I go, "What?" And I look down, and there's the Ouija board. And I first thought it was, they went out and got another one. She goes, "No, one of the people in our group saw it in the thrift store and bought it." They knew exactly what I did because it was gone, and they brought it back. And how would they even know I donated it to a thrift store? Why would they? I did this weird things, and it was like 2.5 years of weirdness. It's scary stuff. Putting spells on people. We bought a house. It was an FHA repo. That's where at that time, they go through it and remodel it and put all new everything in it. It's just almost like a new house. And it was really strange. We took off for a couple hours. I come back, and there's thousands of flies in the house.
Oh, boy.
Now, it wasn't baby flies. These are like the type flies that are about ready to drop dead. They're big, huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't figure out, how they got there. So I had to call an exterminator to come out. They came out, and the guy goes, "Well, I checked around. I don't see any way they, And I said, "They weren't here. We didn't have any flies in the house. We're gone a couple hours, and there's thousands of flies." And the guy says, "Well, to be this big, they would have been flying around for a long time." I said, "No. I mean, you couldn't even open your mouth in that house without swallowing some of these flies." That's how many there were.
Yeah, that's bad signs there, buddy boy.
But the thing is, even then, she was into doing her witchcraft, doing spells for people. She found a group of people to hang around with when I was at work. That was the end of the marriage. It was just so strange, and it was I just couldn't live with that type of lifestyle. I didn't believe in casting spells, and some of the spells she would cast were not the good type of ones. Like, oh, you want that person dead? Okay, well, they're going to have a car accident. Here's a spell. That's the type of stuff she was doing.
Yeah, that's some negative, heavy stuff right there, buddy. You probably did a wise choice to get out of there, and you learn a life's lesson. Don't get married after just a few weeks. Give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the longest 2.5 years of my life. I can tell you that. I mean, you never knew what you were coming home to. But you talk about that time you saw the fire, the goat chained up, and these people in robes going around the fire and chanting. Could you imagine coming home to your apartment and seeing a Ouija board with people dressed in brown, the same thing? I mean, it was scary. Only I couldn't go anywhere. I had no choice.
Yeah, that is scary. I do have an encounter with, I had a girlfriend 25 plus years ago, a long time ago, and unbeknownst to me, she was playing with a Ouija board by herself. And her brother came to me one day. I was a few houses up the street I lived. I said, "There's something." He was wise as good. Something wrong with my sister, and nobody was home but him and her. So I go down there. I go in the house. The house is tore up. She's cussing, growling, drooling, eyes pretty much all black, and just saying, listen, she was, for lack of a better word, possessed, man. It was, It was the most horrific, scary thing I ever seen in my life, and I still have chills about that sight because it was life changing. To be honest with you, it really changed my life from seeing something like that. From a girlfriend. And she wasn't that kind of person. She had lost somebody close to her, and she thought, oh, here's a Ouija board. Let me get this and talk to him, to get closure. But she didn't realize some of the downfalls with these things, because sometimes when you use them, you open up doors, anything could come in, and obviously it did, and it got a hold of her, it got attached to her. But it took us 5 hours to get it out of her, off of her, and it was, I got to tell you, it was definitely life-changing is a good word to say. When you come home and see or go in, you see your girlfriend, she's like not your girlfriend. That's scary.
That's the same way. You come home and it's your wife, but it's not your. What I noticed, which I really was watching, they were at the table, okay, with this Ouija board, and this table was it was going on and off the floor. And I was looking at it, and nobody was lifting on the table. They just had their fingers doing whatever they were doing, and that sucker was coming off the floor. That scared me, because I couldn't figure out how they could do it. How could a group of people, lift a table with us having their fingers up on the table, on the top of the table? They're not lifting on anything. They were not holding it on anything. But this table was going from the floor and up in the air.
Yeah, it's table tipping. That's part of the stuff. It's not for me. I wouldn't suggest it. I mean, because it kind of attracts other things that it could be bad. So my advice is don't do that stuff. I'm just saying. It's, well, you've seen it. You lived it.
Well, my friend who's no longer here, Art Bell, I told him my story about what I just told you because we were friends, and we would talk occasionally and just exchange stuff back and forth, stories. He was dreadfully afraid of Ouija boards. He said that they were evil, and I mean evil to the point that if you got one, it's almost impossible. The only way you could get rid of one was to burn it.
Yeah, some of them don't burn. Best way to get rid of them is bury them throw them in the ocean in salt water, or keep them under salt water or something like that. But they're they can channel things that can be very extremely negative, to say least. I'm going to tell you, in the past 30 years, I have helped many, I can't even count how many people that have messed with those things, and they've inadvertently invited stuff in. And then once that happens, it's tough to get it out, and they cause havoc in your life. Trust me on that. And not to the good sense either.
Oh, I believe that. Well, anyway, we're about ready to go for a break here in about a minute, and then you're going to call back at the top of the hour on the other line, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, at least we got one call here tonight, which is unusual because I normally don't even take calls in at all, so I'm happy at least to have gotten one. I
know. We got a call. I love it. And there's so much scary stuff that I have seen. I don't even know where to begin with stuff that I've seen. People talk about scary. It's like, if people really knew what was really out there, I think they would think twice about leaving their house. Just saying.
Yeah, leaving their bed. Anyway, we're going to be back in about 3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. We have James out there, and we will have Sam back on at the top of the hour. So, hey, go get a cup of Java, a cup of tea, or maybe a margarita. You might need it here tonight. We'll be back on with Night Dreams Talk Radio after all this.